My friend, let's start this journey by being completely honest with ourselves, just for a moment. Have you ever felt that strange, hollow feeling? The one you get after posting a photo online, and then spending the next hour checking your phone, your mood rising and falling with every new notification or lack thereof? Or the day you finally get that promotion you've been waiting for months? Everyone is congratulating you, but after that initial wave of pride and happiness passes, you come home in the evening and feel that same familiar emptiness inside. As if you've reached the destination, but the victory feels hollow. Have you ever walked out of a performance review, your heart pounding not just because of what was said, but because for a fleeting moment, your entire sense of self was in the hands of your boss? That feeling when you leave the room as if a label has been slapped on you, meets expectations or needs improvement, and you feel that this label defines your entire identity as a person. Have you ever laid in bed at night replaying a conversation, a single awkward comment, wondering if you came across as foolish, boring, or not enough? Do you know those sleepless nights when you set up a courtroom in your mind, put yourself on the witness stand, and find that the most ruthless prosecutor is, in fact, yourself? If any of this sounds familiar, know that you are not alone. This is not a personal flaw of yours. This is the silent epidemic of our time. We are living in the age of external validation, an age where we have been taught, conditioned, and programmed to outsource our sense of self. We have handed over the keys to our inner peace to the opinions of others, to the number of followers we have, to the titles on our business cards, and to the price tags on our clothes. We have become ghosts in our own lives, constantly looking at our reflection in the eyes of others to see if we truly exist. And it is so exhausting. It's an exhaustion that eats away at our soul. But what if I told you there's another way to live? What if I told you that you could build a sense of self so solid, so deep, and so real that no criticism could shatter it and no praise could inflate it? A sense of worth that isn't borrowed from the world but is owned by you unconditionally. This isn't just another self-help video with fleeting tips. This is a blueprint. This is a guide to building an unshakable fortress within yourself. In the next 10 sections, we will explore the 10 golden rules of unshakable self-worth. These are not just rules, they are declarations of independence. They are the tools you will use to take back your power, to silence the noise of the world, and to finally hear the steady, quiet, and powerful truth of your own value. If you are tired of this roller coaster, tired of seeking approval, and ready to stop performing and start living fully, then take a deep breath. Settle in. Your work begins now. Rule 1: separate your worth from your performance. You are not your report card. This is the foundation. This is the single most important paradigm shift you will ever make, and every other rule we discuss will stand upon this one. If you truly grasp this first principle, your life will never be the same. The rule is this: you must draw a clear, bold, and permanent line between your self-worth and your self-esteem. We live in a world that worships self-esteem. We are constantly told to boost our self-esteem through our grades at school, our performance at work, and our popularity on social media. It's the darling of pop psychology, the goal of countless books and seminars, but it's a trap, a dangerous one. What is self-esteem? Think of it as your performance meter. It's entirely conditional. It's a grade you give yourself based on your successes and failures. When you get the promotion, your self-esteem soars. When you close a big deal, you feel on top of the world. When you get 100 likes on a photo, you feel validated. It's the high you get from achievement, a temporary rush. But what happens when you get laid off? What happens when you fail an exam? What happens when a project you poured your heart into gets rejected? Your self-esteem plummets, it crashes. Because it was never truly yours to begin with, it was a byproduct of your performance. It's like a stock market ticker that goes up and down with the news of the day. To live a life based on self-esteem is to live in a constant state of anxiety, because you know deep down that you are only one failure away from feeling worthless. It's the life of a tightrope walker. You live with the constant threat of falling. Now let's talk about the real treasure. Let's talk about self-worth. Self-worth is not a grade. It is not a meter. It is your bedrock. It is the unshakable, non-negotiable, and unconditional truth of your value as a human being. It has nothing to do with what you do, what you achieve, or what you own. It has everything to do with who you are. Think of it this way: self-esteem is the paint, the furniture, and the pictures on the walls of a house. When guests come over, they admire them, they applaud them. But when an earthquake hits, when the tremors of life strike, none of that furniture, none of those pictures can keep the house standing. What keeps the house standing is the foundation that no one sees, that no one applauds, but whose existence is vital. That foundation is self-worth. The world is obsessed with selling us new coats of paint, more stylish furniture, telling us that if we just get a shinier, more expensive decor, we'll finally be happy. But they never tell us to check our foundation. Your worth is not in the grade you get on a test. It's in the courage you showed to study for it. Your worth is not in winning the race. It's in the discipline you showed to train for it. And even deeper than that, your worth is present even if you never studied, and even if you never trained. Your worth is inherent. It was gifted to you at birth. It is your birthright. A diamond that is sitting in the mud is still a diamond. Its value doesn't decrease because it's covered in dirt. A lion doesn't need to win a race to know it's a lion. Its power is in its nature. Your value is in your nature. It cannot be earned and therefore it cannot be taken away. So how do we begin to live this truth? How do we unhook ourselves from the addictive drug of performance-based esteem? First practical step, the I am versus I did I have journal. This is one of the most powerful exercises you will do to reprogram your mind. For 1 week, get a notebook. Divide each page into 2 columns. On the left side, write I did I have. On the right side, write I am. Throughout the day, in the left column, you can list your achievements, your tasks, your possessions. I finished a report. I got praised by my manager. I bought a new shirt. I went to the gym. This is the column of self-esteem, the things the world sees and applauds. Now, in the right column, I want you to connect with your inherent qualities, the things that are true about you regardless of your performance that day. These are your qualities of being, the essence of who you are. For example, I am someone who tries their best. I am someone who loves to learn and is curious. I am someone who doesn't lose their sense of humor even in tough times. I am someone who is loyal to their loved ones. I am someone capable of kindness. I am someone who is resilient. I am someone who values honesty. At the end of the week, look at both columns. The left column is what the world measures. The right column is who you are. The left column is fleeting. The right column is enduring. The purpose of this exercise is to consciously and repeatedly shift your focus from the fluctuating world of doing to the stable world of being. It's to train your brain to recognize that your value resides in the right-hand column, the one that no failure can erase. This is about changing the narrative about yourself. This is the first and most vital rule. You are not your job title. You are not your bank account. You are not your successes or your failures. Those are just experiences passing through your life. You are the sky and they are the weather. The weather changes, storms rage, the sun shines, but the sky always remains. Internalize this, meditate on it, write it on your wall in big letters. My worth is not tied to my performance. Repeat this sentence until it sinks from your head into your heart and from your heart into the very marrow of your bones. Because once you truly understand this, you are no longer playing the world's game. You are starting to create your own. Rule 2, identify and manage your inner critic. That voice is not you. If we've understood the first rule, that our worth is separate from our performance, it means we are ready for our greatest internal battle. This is a war that rages silently within our minds every day, every moment. And the main adversary in this war is the owner of that familiar, ruthless whisper, the inner critic. The inner critic is that dissatisfied teacher who has set up camp in a corner of your mind, holding a red pen, scrutinizing every moment of your life. It's the voice that finds a flaw in everything you do, belittles every achievement, and presents every mistake as a catastrophe. It's the voice that whispers, "You're going to stumble now, everyone will laugh at you," as you're giving a presentation. The one that says, "You'll fail at this too, don't even bother," when you start a new hobby. The one that won't even let you rest, saying, "You're being lazy, you have so much more to do, you blew it again, you'll never succeed at this. Everyone is going to see how incompetent you are, you should have worked harder." Do these sentences sound familiar? This is the voice of the critic. The first and most earth-shattering truth we must understand is this: that voice is not you. That voice is not an innate part of you. It's a recording formed over time. It's a collage of voices from your past. Perhaps it's the echo of a constantly critical parent, a teacher who always expected more, or the relentless societal expectation to be perfect. These voices were repeated so often in childhood that, at some point, we stopped hearing them externally and started producing them internally. This was a twisted method our brain devised to protect itself. If I criticize myself first and more harshly than anyone else, then the criticism of others won't hurt as much. But this shield, over time, has turned into a prison that destroys us from the inside out, holding us back from our potential. So what tactics are in this critic's playbook? How do we recognize it? The critic's tactics. Perfectionism. The critic sets impossible standards. For it, everything is all or nothing. If a job is 99% successful, it focuses only on the 1% flaw and presents it as a total failure. Let's say you wrote a 20-page report with a single typo. The critic ignores the content and the effort you put in and magnifies only that single mistake in your mind. This tactic holds us back from trying new things because we think, if I can't do it perfectly, I'd better not do it at all. We procrastinate on projects, we're afraid to take risks, and in the end, by doing nothing, we fulfill the critic's prophecy of "See, you are going to fail anyway." Catastrophizing. The critic makes mountains out of molehills. It takes a tiny mistake and rolls it like a snowball into a giant avalanche. I mispronounced a word in the meeting, everyone must think I'm an idiot. My boss will never trust me again, they'll take me off this project and my career is over. See, a 1-second slip of the tongue instantly turns into a career-ending scenario. This is the primary fuel for anxiety. The critic writes the worst-case scenarios for the future and makes us watch them as if they were real. Generalization: the critic loves absolute terms like always and never. Because these words don't target the situation, they target your identity directly. It takes a single mistake and makes a general judgment about your character. I got a low grade on this exam, which means I'm someone who will never be successful. I made a mistake in this relationship, which means I always ruin my relationships. These statements eliminate the possibility of learning and growth. They slap an unchangeable and flawed identity label on you. The negativity filter: the critic holds a magic sieve. This sieve blocks all the positive things in your life: achievements, compliments, good moments, and only lets the negative ones pass through. 9 people have praised your work and 1 person has criticized it. The critic instantly throws the 9 praises in the trash and occupies your mind for days with that single criticism. It turns your mind into a negativity detector that only looks for mud and dirt. This is why, no matter how successful you become, you can never feel good enough. So how do we deal with this ruthless dictator? How do we dethrone it from our minds? Here is a 5-step counter strategy. Practical steps. Notice and name. The first step is to stop the fight and just observe. When that voice starts talking, instead of panicking or believing it, just take a step back and notice. There it is again. This is not my thought. This is the voice of my inner critic. To separate it from yourself, give it a funny or absurd name. Critical Carl, perfectionist Patty, nervous Nellie. When you look at it as a character, its hypnotic power over you is broken. It's no longer your reality. It's a character speaking in your mind. All right, Carl, I see you're on stage again. Thanks for your input, but I'm writing the script now. This simple act takes you out of the victim role and puts you in the director's chair. Question the evidence. Think of the critic as an unreliable witness being cross-examined in court. When it speaks, become a detective. They never listened to me. Really? What's your evidence? Has there not been a single moment when they listened to you? What about that time last week when you talked with your friend for hours? I always fail. Really? What would happen if you made a list of all your successes, big or small? Remember the day you learned to ride a bike, the moment you got your first job, that time you helped someone. The critic loses its power in the face of concrete evidence because it feeds on exaggerations and distortions, not facts. Change perspective. The best friend rule. This is one of the most effective and compassionate methods. When the critic starts speaking in your mind, stop and ask yourself, if my best friend made the same mistake and was saying these cruel things to themselves, what would I say to them? You would never say, you're an idiot, you always mess up, right? You would probably say something like, this is just one mistake, everyone makes them. This doesn't define who you are. You are smart, talented, and strong, and you will get through this. Remember how you got through that other tough situation? Now is the time to direct that compassionate, rational, and supportive voice towards yourself. Choose to be your own best friend. Understand its intention, thank it, and show it the way. Don't fight with the critic, because fighting it is fighting with your own mind, and you can't win that war. Instead, understand that it's actually a well-intentioned but misguided part of you. Its core intention is to protect you from pain and rejection. It's like a scared little child trying to keep you from danger. Approach it with compassion. Dear critic, I understand you're trying to protect me from disappointment. I thank you for that intention. But these methods are no longer working. You're hurting me more by constantly criticizing me. I'm in control now, and I will guide myself with a more compassionate approach. This isn't about silencing it, it's about re-educating it. It's about reparenting that scared part of yourself. Choose to focus on the positive. To counter the critic's negativity filter, you must consciously choose to filter for the positive. This is using neuroplasticity, the brain's ability to rewire itself. At the end of each day, write down 3 things that went well, made you smile, or made you feel proud. It doesn't matter how small they are. I smiled at a stranger today. My dinner was delicious. I finished a task without procrastinating. I enjoyed the song I listened to today. This might feel difficult at first because your brain is used to looking for the negative. But as you continue this practice, you will teach your brain a new habit. You will learn to turn the spotlight of your mind away from constant flaws and mistakes and towards gratitude and accomplishments. Remember, you cannot eliminate the inner critic overnight. It's a habit of years, a deep neural pathway in your brain. But by applying these steps as a daily practice, you will use that old pathway less and build a new, compassionate, and supportive one in its place. Over time, its voice will turn from a roar into a whisper. You will take away its power and slowly regain control of your mind. It is no longer your master, you are its manager. This is one of the biggest steps you will take on the road to freedom. Rule 3: stay in your own lane. Detox from the poison of comparison. We've learned to separate our worth from our performance. We've learned to recognize and manage the voice of our ruthless inner critic. Now it's time to confront the most insidious and widespread spiritual poison of the modern age. This is the poison that seeps into our veins through the screens of our phones every day, stealing our joy and slowly eroding our self-worth. That dangerous habit, comparison. You know the moment? You're sitting on your couch at the end of a long day, picking up your phone to distract yourself, and that's when it begins. A friend's perfect sunset photo from an exotic vacation, an old acquaintance's new top-of-the-line car, someone else's gym selfie looking incredibly fit. another person's cheerful Sunday brunch with their perfect family. And there you are, phone in hand, looking at your own ordinary, messy, and lacking life. In that moment, a subtle pang hits your heart. A feeling of inadequacy, a spark of envy, a question of why isn't my life like that? This is the first symptom of the comparison poison. That momentary search for pleasure gives way to what we can call a comparison hangover, a gnawing unease that eats away at you from the inside. Social psychologist Leon Festinger said that people have a natural drive to evaluate their own abilities and opinions by comparing themselves to others. So to some extent, this is a normal human tendency. Our ancestors developed their survival skills by observing what other members of the tribe were doing. He ate that fruit and didn't die, so it must be safe. He used that hunting technique and succeeded, so I should try it too. This was a necessary social learning mechanism for survival. But today, this natural tendency, combined with technology, has turned into an out-of-control monster. We no longer compare ourselves to just a few people in our village, but to the carefully curated shop windows of millions of people from all over the world. We can never know what's behind these shop windows, that the perfect vacation photo might have been taken right after a huge fight just to make it seem like everything is fine, that the new car has put its owner under a mountain of debt causing sleepless nights, that the fit body is the result of an unhealthy obsession, an eating disorder, or excessive exercise, that the cheerful family brunch is a mask to hide the tension and lack of communication within the home. We don't see these things. We compare the entire mess of our own lives, all the behind-the-scenes realities, all our doubts and fears, with only the brightest, most polished, most staged performance of someone else's life. This is a rigged game, and as long as we play this game, we are doomed to lose. Comparison is the archenemy of self-worth. Because when you compare, you reject your own uniqueness, your own journey, your own story. Instead of watering the flowers in your own garden, you waste your time looking at how green someone else's garden is. And this gaze dries up your own garden. Because wherever you direct your attention and energy, that is what you grow. When you constantly direct your energy towards others, your own potential begins to wither. So how do we free ourselves from this toxic habit? How do we get back into our own lane and keep our eyes on our own path? Practical steps. Moment of awareness, recognize the poison. It all starts with recognizing the poison. The moment you catch yourself comparing yourself to someone else, just identify the situation without judging yourself. Ah, there I go again, I'm in comparison mode. This simple awareness deactivates the autopilot. That moment is your opportunity to apply the antidote. Understand how comparison makes you feel. Where does it create tension in your body, in your stomach, in your chest? Does it drain your energy? Does it motivate you or does it bring you down? 99% of the time, the answer will be that it brings you down. Recognize this feeling. This feeling is your alarm system. In that moment, put down your phone, close your eyes, and take 3 deep breaths. With each breath, imagine that feeling leaving your body. This turns abstract awareness into a physical action. Clean up your media diet. Be the gatekeeper of your mental home. Your social media feed is the front door to your mental home. You must decide who gets to come in and out. Ruthlessly unfollow or mute accounts that constantly make you feel inadequate, jealous, or bad about yourself. This isn't rudeness, it's a mental health precaution. Your peace of mind is more valuable than watching someone else's life. Do a joy audit. Pick up your phone and scroll through your feed. For each post, ask yourself, does this content bring me joy or does it steal my joy? Does it inspire me or does it pull me down? If the answer is negative, mute or unfollow that account immediately. Fill your feed with accounts that inspire you, teach you something, make you laugh, or nourish your soul with their art. Feed your mind with nutritious, healthy foods, not junk food. Use the power of gratitude, see what you have. Comparison feeds on the question, what am I missing? Gratitude, on the other hand, draws strength from the question, what do I have? These two thoughts cannot coexist in the mind at the same time. One pushes the other out. The moment you feel yourself falling into the comparison trap, consciously shift your focus. Right then and there, think of or say out loud 3 things you are grateful for. I am grateful for my health. I am grateful to have a roof over my head. I am grateful to have a friend who loves me. This practice shifts your mind's focus from lack to abundance. This is one of the fastest antidotes to neutralize the poison of comparison. Go even deeper. Be grateful not just for the big things, but for the small, ordinary miracles. I am grateful for the smell of my coffee, for the warmth of my bed, for a beautiful song I heard today. Gratitude reprograms your brain's reticular activating system, the filter that chooses what to focus on in your environment, to see the existing beauty instead of searching for what's missing. Measure your own progress, be better than you were yesterday. This is the most important and transformative step. Instead of making a horizontal comparison with others, make a vertical comparison with yourself. Your only competitor should be the person you were yesterday. For this, keep a personal growth journal. At the end of each week, write down something new you learned that week, a small fear you overcame, a new habit you started, a book you read. This week, I made that phone call I was afraid of. This week, I read 10 pages of a book every day. This week, I expressed my opinion more clearly on a matter. When you see your own progress in concrete terms, what others are doing starts to lose its importance. Because you are running your own race, and in that race, you are winning a small victory every day. The fact that someone else is at the 10th kilometer of their marathon does not devalue the fact that you are at the 2nd kilometer of yours. What matters is that you were at the 1st kilometer yesterday, and you are at the 2nd today. Distinguish between inspiration and envy. Looking at others' successes is not always a bad thing. Sometimes it can inspire us. The key to telling the difference is how you feel after looking at that success. If after looking at that person you find yourself feeling energetic, motivated, and saying, "I can do that too, this gave me an idea," that is inspiration, that is healthy. But if after looking you find yourself feeling drained, hopeless, and saying, "I can never be like them," that is envy, that is toxic. Inspiration moves you to action, envy paralyzes you. The moment you feel envy, understand that it's time to remove that source from your life. The moment you feel inspiration, immediately turn that energy into a concrete step. That person's discipline inspired me, so I'm going to get up now and go for a 15-minute walk. Use inspiration as fuel for your own journey. Remember, everyone's path is different. Everyone's timing is different. A flower doesn't worry about blooming faster than the flower next to it, it just blooms in its own time according to its own nature. Your journey is unique to you, your timing is unique to you. Take your eyes off of someone else's lane and focus on your own path. Count your own steps. Celebrate your own victories. Water your own garden. You will see that when you start taking care of your own garden, it will become so beautiful that you will have neither the time nor the desire to look at anyone else's. Rule 4: treat yourself like your best friend. Discover the power of self-compassion. We've learned to separate our worth from our performance. We've learned to recognize and manage the voice of our ruthless inner critic. And finally, we've detoxed from the poison of comparison by taking our eyes off of others' lanes and focusing on our own path. These first 3 rules have created a defensive line against the outside world and our internal negative patterns. Now it's time to build a brand new, warm world for ourselves behind that defensive line. It's time to relearn how to actively treat ourselves. I want to ask you a question. When your best friend, someone you love, makes a mistake, has a tough day, or experiences a failure, how do you treat them? You probably go to their side, put a hand on their shoulder, and say, "It's okay, everyone makes mistakes. It's not the end of the world, you're strong, you'll get through this, I'm here for you." You listen to them, you encourage them, you are kind and understanding towards them. Now when you make the same mistake, when you have a tough day, when you experience a failure, how do you treat yourself? If you're like most of us, you treat yourself like your worst enemy. Your inner critic takes over and begins, "You idiot, I knew you couldn't do it, you've ruined everything, you're the only one this incompetent." You beat yourself up, criticize yourself mercilessly, and push yourself into isolation. This is our greatest contradiction. We withhold from ourselves the compassion we so generously offer to others. The 4th rule is here to eliminate this contradiction. The rule is simple but revolutionary. Treat yourself as you would treat your closest, most beloved friend. The name of this practice is self-compassion. Self-compassion is one of the most researched and proven transformative concepts in the world of psychology in recent years, but it is also one of the most misunderstood. So first, let's understand what it is not. What self-compassion is not. Self-compassion is not self-pity. Self-pity is a passive state of, "Oh, poor me, how unlucky I am." It makes you feel like a victim, allows you to drown in your problems, and isolates you from other people. Self-compassion, on the other hand, is active. It asks, "Yes, this is a difficult situation and I am in pain. How can I cope with this pain? How can I help myself?" It takes you out of the victim role and puts you in the role of the hero who helps themselves. Self-compassion is not laziness or escaping responsibility. Many people fear that if they are compassionate towards themselves, they will stop trying to improve and become lazy. They think, "If I forgive myself for my mistakes, I'll never learn my lesson." This is a huge misconception. Research shows the exact opposite. Harsh self-criticism triggers our brain's threat defense system, releasing cortisol. This system puts us into a mode of fear, avoidance, and freezing. Instead of learning from our mistakes, we start to run from them or deny them. Self-compassion, however, triggers the brain's caregiving safety system, releasing oxytocin. This gives us a sense of safety, and only when we feel safe can we look at our mistakes honestly, take responsibility, and learn something from them. So harsh criticism is like a whip. It might make you move in the short term, but it wounds your spirit in the long run. Self-compassion is like a coach who encourages you. It is the most sustainable and healthy fuel for your growth. So what exactly is self-compassion? According to psychologist Dr. Kristen Neff, self-compassion has 3 core components. When we understand these 3 pillars, we will also understand how to apply it in our lives. The 3 pillars of self-compassion. Self-kindness. This is choosing to be warm, kind, and understanding towards ourselves when we are in pain or fail, instead of judging ourselves harshly. It's about silencing the inner critic and replacing its voice with that of a wise and compassionate friend. Practical step: the compassionate touch and phrases. This is more than just an abstract idea, it's a physical practice. When you're having a difficult moment, you've made a mistake, received criticism, feel anxious, stop. Place your hand over your heart. This simple touch sends a "you are safe" signal to your nervous system, and then say to yourself the sentences you would say to a friend. This is a really difficult moment. It's normal to be in pain right now. I allow myself to be kind to myself. This too shall pass. These sentences are like pouring water on a fire. They don't eliminate the pain, but they soothe its destructive flames. Common humanity. This is remembering that suffering, mistakes, and imperfections are not unique to you, but are part of a shared, universal human experience. The critic constantly isolates us and leaves us alone in shame by telling us, "You're the only one this incompetent. Everyone else has their life together. You're the only one struggling." Self-compassion does the exact opposite. It reconnects us to the human family. Practical step: the "just like me" thought. In a moment when you feel inadequate or alone, remember this magic phrase. Just like me, millions of people around the world are feeling lonely right now. Just like me, even the most successful people sometimes doubt themselves. Just like me, everyone has flaws and fears inside them. This thought doesn't diminish your pain. On the contrary, it respects your pain but takes it from being a personal flaw and turns it into a common part of being human. This is the most powerful antidote that melts away shame and destroys loneliness. Mindfulness: this is the ability to observe our painful thoughts and feelings with a balanced awareness, without getting carried away by them or trying to suppress them. We usually swing to two extremes. We either try to sweep our painful feelings, sadness, anxiety, anger, under the rug, which never works. They come back stronger, or we completely identify with them. "I am sad" becomes "I am sadness" itself, and drown in the tsunami of the emotion. Practical step: name and observe your emotions. When a wave of emotion comes, instead of getting swept away, observe it like a scientist. Right now, I am noticing a feeling of anxiety in my body. There is a tightness in my chest. My thoughts are racing. Giving a name to the emotion, "Hello, anxiety, you're here again," reduces its power over you. You are no longer the anxiety, you are the one observing the anxiety. This puts a tiny bit of distance between you and the emotion, and that distance creates the space for you to breathe and choose to respond consciously instead of reacting. These three components are like the three legs of a stool. When they work together, they create a solid foundation that allows you to stay standing even in the most difficult moments. Showing your self-compassion is not something you learn overnight. It's like developing a muscle. It requires practice every day in small moments. When you burn the food and instead of getting angry at yourself, you say, "It's okay, it happens to everyone," you're working that muscle. When you make a wrong turn in traffic and instead of insulting yourself, you take a deep breath, you're working that muscle. Every small act of compassion strengthens the voice of that inner friend and quiets the voice of the critic. Remember, how you treat yourself is the most powerful message you send to others about how they should treat you. When you disrespect yourself, you give others permission to disrespect you too. When you show yourself compassion, you draw a silent but unshakable boundary around you that says, "I am valuable and I deserve to be treated with kindness." This rule is not a luxury, it is a necessity. Because if you want to build unshakable self-worth, you have to take good care of the most important worker on the construction site, yourself. Rule 5: write your personal constitution and live by it. Let your values be your compass. So far on our journey, we've accomplished something incredible. We've separated our worth from our performance, erasing ourselves from the world's report card. We've recognized the ruthless critic within and ended its tyranny over our minds. We've found the antidote to the poison of comparison and started running in our own lane. And most importantly, we've discovered the healing power of self-compassion by treating ourselves like our best friend. These first 4 rules were like building the defensive walls of a fortress, creating a solid line of defense that protects us from external attacks and internal saboteurs. Now it's time to step inside that fortress and determine the laws by which it will be governed. It's time to move from defense to consciously building our lives. Because unshakable self-worth isn't just about what you reject, it's also about what you embrace. Have you ever felt like you were a ship adrift in the middle of the ocean without a compass, going wherever the wind blows, drifting wherever the current pulls? Have you ever made decisions based on your mood that day, on the expectations of others, on societal pressures of what seems right, or on the most popular option, starting one thing with passion one day only to chase after something else the next? And at the end of the day, feeling that despite all the motion, you haven't actually got anywhere, just been sailing in circles. This is one of the most insidious forms of worthlessness, meaninglessness. If a life has no direction, no purpose, no why, then even the most luxurious ship is no different from a wreck lost at sea. The 5th rule is here to give your life's ship that lost compass back. The rule is this: discover and write your personal constitution, that is, your core values, and live by it in every moment of your life. So what do we mean by values? This word is often used in a moral or religious tone, but what we're talking about here is much more personal and universal. Values are not about what is right or wrong. Values are the answer to the questions, what kind of person do I want to be? And how do I want to conduct my journey? They are the compass of your soul. For example, honesty, adventure, peace, creativity, family, wisdom, justice, love, growth, these are values. They are the fundamental pillars of your character. Here, we must understand the vital difference between goals and values. This is one of the most enlightening moments in the journey of self-worth. Goals are destinations, they can be reached, they can be completed. Graduating from university is a goal, it ends when you graduate. Buying a house is a goal, it ends when you buy it. Goals are somewhere in the future, and when we reach them, they give us a temporary satisfaction, self-esteem. But what if we don't reach the goal, or what if when we do, we don't find the happiness we expected, then we fall back into emptiness? Values, on the other hand, are the journey itself. They are a direction, a style that you can live by every day, every moment. Learning is a value. Even if the goal of graduating from university is over, you can continue to learn for the rest of your life. Being loving is a value. Whether the goal of getting married happens or not, you can give love to those around you every day. A life focused on goals says, I will be worthy when I get there. This postpones worth to the future. A life focused on values says, right now in this action, I am living my values and therefore I feel worthy. It brings worth into the present moment. This is the secret to unshakable self-worth, because external conditions, whether you achieve your goals or not, can change, but your choice to live by your values is always within your control. So how do we discover these values that seem abstract, but are in fact the most concrete pillars of our lives? Practical step: the Personal Constitution Workshop. Set aside at least half an hour of quiet time for this exercise. Get a pen and paper. This is one of the most important meetings of your life. The long list: browse a comprehensive list of personal values you can find online or in books, e.g., justice, family, achievement, wisdom, courage, enthusiasm, generosity, discipline, nature, friendship, honesty, fun, growth, security, peace, stability, contribution, adventure, compassion, joy, freedom, respect, love, creativity, etc. The first cut from this list: underline or write down all the values that speak to you in some way, the ones that make you say, this is important to me. Don't limit yourself at this stage, you might choose 20-30 values. The top contenders. Now from those 20-30 values, choose the 10 that you feel are your non-negotiables, the ones you believe are the core pillars of your life. This will be a bit more challenging. The first 5 articles of your constitution. We've come to the most critical stage. Of those 10 values, if you had to live the rest of your life according to only 5 of them, which would you choose? Which are non-negotiable for you? Find these 5 values. This is your personal constitution. Defining the meaning, now write those 5 values down, one below the other. And next to each one, answer these 2 questions. What does this value mean to me? Create your own personal definition. When I am living this value, what is happening in my life? How do I behave? Give concrete examples. For example, if one article of your constitution is courage, you might write, meaning for me, courage doesn't mean not being afraid. It means doing what I believe is right, speaking my mind, and stepping out of my comfort zone despite the fear. Reflection in life. When I see an injustice in a meeting, I speak up instead of staying silent. I don't hesitate to learn a new skill. I don't let the fear of rejection cause me to miss an opportunity. When you complete this exercise, you will no longer have abstract words, but a living, breathing guide. Living by your value compass, now you have a compass. So how do you use it? When you face a decision in your life, whether it's a big decision like changing your career or a small one like deciding what to do in the evening, ask yourself this question. Which option is more aligned with my values? List your 5 values. A job offer: this job pays more money. A goal: but the company's work culture conflicts with my values of honesty and peace. The other job may pay less, but it's more aligned with my values of creativity and growth. Your compass shows you the way. A weekend plan: everyone is going to that popular party. External pressure, but staying home and reading a book nourishes my values of wisdom and peace more. Your compass tells you what is truly right for you. A difficult conversation: it's easier to avoid this confrontation, but bringing up the issue is aligned with my values of courage and honesty. When you make a decision that is aligned with your values, regardless of the outcome, you experience a sense of integrity and rightness. This feeling is self-worth itself. Even if others don't approve of you, you approve of yourself, because you have remained true to your own constitution. In the middle of a storm, when everything is uncertain, what keeps a ship steady is its anchor. Your personal values are that solid anchor that will protect you from being tossed about by the storms of life. Once that anchor is cast, it doesn't matter how hard the winds outside blow. You will be safe at your center. Rule 6: treat saying no as a sacred duty, the sanctity of boundaries. In the previous section, we installed a compass on our life ship. We now know what to pursue and which harbors to head for. By discovering our personal constitution, our core values, we've learned how to make our decisions. This has given us a tremendous sense of direction and meaning. But there's a problem. Even if you have the best compass, you will never reach your desired port if your ship is full of stowaways who constantly consume your time, energy, and resources. It is at this point that we encounter the most practical, challenging, and liberating rule in building self-worth. This rule is the art of throwing those stowaways overboard. This rule is the act of declaring that you are the captain of your own life. The rule is this: you must consider saying no a sacred duty to yourself, because boundaries are sacred. You know the feeling. You already have a million things to do, but a colleague asks you for a small favor. And even though you're screaming no on the inside, the words, "Of course, I'll handle it," come out of your mouth. Those evenings when you're dead tired and all you want is to rest at home, but you force yourself to go out because you couldn't turn down a friend's invitation. Those countless moments when you sacrifice your own needs, your own rest, your own priorities just to avoid disappointing someone else, to avoid being labeled as selfish or mean. This seems like a requirement of being a good person, doesn't it? Helpful, agreeable, self-sacrificing. These are the virtues we are taught, but hidden behind these virtues is a dangerous trap, the people-pleasing disease. This disease is the most common symptom of people who build their self-worth on the approval of others. The underlying fear is this: if I say no, I won't be loved. If I set my boundaries, I will be excluded. If I prioritize my own needs, I will be selfish and end up alone. With this fear, we offer our own mental health, our energy, and our time as a sacrifice for the happiness of others. But what is the result? Are we loved more? No. The result is a simmering resentment, a chronic fatigue, and most importantly, a slow erosion of the respect we have for ourselves. Because every time you say yes to someone else when you mean no, you are actually saying no to your own needs. And you cannot expect others to respect someone who constantly says no to themselves. First, let's understand what boundaries are not. Boundaries are not walls built to push people away. On the contrary, they are like the garden fences drawn to coexist with people in a healthy way. Those fences prevent the flowers in your garden, i.e., your energy, time, and mental health, from being trampled by others, so you can share the beauty of those flowers with your guests. Boundaries are not selfishness. Selfishness is thinking only of your own needs and disregarding the needs of others. Setting boundaries is accepting that your own needs are just as valid and important as anyone else's. It is the most fundamental form of self-respect. Boundaries are not aggression or rudeness. Saying no does not mean shouting, yelling, or fighting. A healthy no is gentle but firm. Boundaries are simply a set of personal rules that define what feels good to you and what doesn't. They are the conscious choices you make about where and to whom you will spend your energy. They are your user manual. So how will we build and protect these sacred boundaries in our lives? Practical steps: mastering the art of saying no. Give yourself internal permission. Validate your own needs. The first step is a mental revolution. You must tell yourself again and again that your own needs, your right to rest, and your right to say no are legitimate and valid. I have the right to rest. I do not have to say yes to every request. I have the right to set my own priorities. Do not wait for this permission from someone else. You will give that permission to yourself. Start small, build the muscle. The saying no muscle is just like any other muscle, it develops with use. Don't try to lift the heaviest weight on your first attempt. That is, you don't have to say your first no to your boss or your mother. Start in the smallest, least risky area. When a telemarketer or a salesperson calls you, politely say, "I'm not interested, thank you," and hang up. When a friend makes a small request that doesn't work for you, say, "I'm sorry, that doesn't work for me this time." These small victories will warm up that muscle and prepare you for bigger no's. Use the power of the pause. Break the automatic yes reflex. Many of us feel the pressure to respond instantly when a request is made, and under this pressure we say the easiest answer, which is yes. Break this reflex. When someone asks something of you, give yourself time. Use these magic phrases. "Can I check my calendar and get back to you? I need to think about that, I'll let you know." That sounds like a great idea. Can we talk after I've firmed up the details? This pause gives you two things. First, it prevents you from making a decision in a panic. Second, it creates a space for you to figure out if you really want to say yes or no. In this space, you can evaluate the decision according to your values. Rule 5. Gentle but firm no formulas. You don't have to give long-winded explanations or make up false excuses when you say no. This often complicates the situation even more. Be simple, honest, and kind. Here are a few formulas. Thank plus decline. Thank you so much for the invitation. It sounds wonderful, but I have other plans that evening. Empathize plus decline. I understand what a difficult situation you're in, and I would love to help, but I'm not in a position to take on that responsibility right now. Acknowledge the value plus decline. Your passion for this project is amazing, and I'd love to support you, but I need to focus all my energy on my own project this period. Remember, just saying no is also a complete sentence and is sufficient. The art of dealing with guilt. After you say no, especially at the beginning, you will feel an intense sense of guilt. This is very normal. These are the alarm bells of the people-pleasing program in your brain. When that guilt comes, do not surrender to it. Just sit with it and feel it. Remind yourself, this feeling doesn't mean I'm being selfish. This feeling means I'm changing a years-long habit and stepping out of my comfort zone. And most importantly, never forget this equation. Every no you say to one thing is a powerful yes said to something else you truly value. The no to your friend's invitation is a yes to a quiet evening with your family. The no to an extra work project is a yes to your own mental health and rest time. Setting boundaries is not a one-time action. It's like continuous garden maintenance. Sometimes you need to repair the fences, sometimes you need to pull the weeds. But as you do this maintenance, your garden, that is your life, will give back to you in the form of peace, energy, and most importantly, a deep respect for yourself. When you give yourself permission to say no, you send a message to the world that my time, my energy, and my needs are valuable. And when you treat yourself this way, you will find that after a while, the world begins to treat you with the same respect. Rule 7. Develop your I can muscle by mastering a craft. The foundation we've built so far is incredibly solid. We've understood that our worth is not dependent on external conditions. We've neutralized our inner critic and the poison of comparison. We've learned to approach ourselves with compassion, live according to our values, and draw our sacred boundaries. These were all revolutions in our mental and spiritual worlds. However, self-worth also has a concrete, tangible leg to stand on. It's time to anchor the abstract belief of I am worthy with the concrete proof of I can do it. What is one of the inner critic's favorite weapons? To whisper to us, you are incompetent, you can't do anything right, you're useless. The most powerful shield against this whisper is not an abstract belief but concrete evidence. The moment you prove to yourself, with your own hands, your own effort, your own mind, that you have accomplished something, that you have improved in some area, that you have overcome a challenge, the critic's voice becomes faint and loses its power. The 7th rule is the art of creating this evidence. The rule is this: develop your I can muscle, your sense of self-efficacy, by mastering a craft. Psychologist Albert Bandura has a concept called self-efficacy. This is a person's belief in their ability to succeed in a specific task. This is different from a general feeling of I'm great. This is the knowledge that in this specific area, if I put in the effort, I can learn and succeed. And this knowledge is the most powerful ally of unshakable self-worth, because it is not based on external approval, but on your own experiences, on an earned confidence. Think about it. Remember the moment you first rode a bicycle. You fell many times, you scraped your knees, but at some point you found that balance and started pedaling. The feeling you had at that moment was not just an achievement, it was the birth of self-efficacy. I was falling, but I kept trying, and now I can do it. This experience etched the message: even if I face difficulties, if I try, I can overcome them, into your brain. What we will do is consciously bring this bike-riding moment into an area of our lives. What is a craft? When I say craft, I'm not just talking about a job or profession you do for money. A craft is any activity you do with a love for the process, with deep focus, and with a desire to improve. Playing a musical instrument is a craft. Writing, coding is a craft. Cooking, gardening, woodworking is a craft. Trying to speak a language fluently, playing chess, painting is a craft. What matters is not what the activity is, but how you approach it. A craft teaches you patience, focus, learning from mistakes, and most importantly, that you can make great progress with small steps. A craft puts you in that magical state called flow, that moment of deep concentration where you forget how time passes, where the voice of your ego and your inner critic is silenced, and you are just one with what you are doing. These moments are when self-worth is experienced in its purest form. So how will we develop this I can muscle? Practical steps: the journey of mastery. Follow your curiosity and choose your craft. The question you should ask yourself is not what am I good at, but what am I curious about? Maybe a guitar has been hanging on your wall for years. Maybe your grandmother's knitting needles are waiting in a drawer. Maybe the idea of learning Italian has been in the back of your mind. If you say, I'm not curious about anything, that's usually the voice of the critic. Put it aside and go back to your childhood. What did you enjoy doing as a child? Playing with mud, drawing, taking things apart and putting them back together. That childlike curiosity often contains the seeds of our most authentic craft. You don't have to be perfect. Just choose an area where you have a small spark of curiosity. This will be your personal laboratory. Adopt the deliberate practice mindset. Repeating something mindlessly 1,000 times does not bring mastery. What brings mastery is deliberate practice. This is practice done with focus, by identifying your weaknesses and specifically working on those weaknesses. If you're playing the guitar, this isn't just playing the 3 songs you know over and over again, but working an extra 5 minutes every day to be able to play that difficult bar chord. This is navigating the edges of your comfort zone, and this is where real growth happens. Deliberate practice is fueled by feedback. Record what you do, show it to an expert, or just honestly analyze your own performance. The question, what could I have done better this time, is the best guide on the path to mastery. The 15-minute rule, break the inertia. The hardest part of starting something new is taking that first step. The critic immediately chimes in, if you can't set aside 2 hours a day, don't even start. This is a lie. This is the all or nothing trap. Make a promise to yourself for just 15 minutes. Today I will practice the guitar for just 15 minutes. Today I will memorize Spanish words for just 15 minutes. Everyone has 15 minutes in a day. This small commitment breaks that huge initial resistance. And most of the time, when those 15 minutes are up, you'll find yourself continuing for 30 minutes or an hour. Because starting an action is much harder than sustaining it. What's important is not intensity, but consistency. A small step taken every day will take you to an incredible place at the end of a year. Fall in love with the process, forget the outcome. Your goal is not to become a virtuoso overnight. Your goal is to enjoy the pleasure of playing that one chord cleanly, to experience that small satisfaction you feel when you write that one line of code without errors, to see the color that one brushstroke adds to the canvas. When you are outcome-focused, you constantly live with the feeling of I'm not there yet. This gives material to the critic. You're still not perfect, so you're a failure. But when you focus on the process, every moment of practice is a victory in itself. You assign value to the effort and focus itself, not to the final product. This is like being a mountaineer. The mountaineer's joy is not just when they reach the summit, but in every moment of the climb, in every step they take, every rock they hold onto, every view they see. The process becomes the destination itself. Keep a done list, accumulate your evidence. At the end of each day, instead of making a long list of things to do tomorrow, a to-do list, make a list of the things you completed that day, a done list. Practice guitar for 15 minutes today. Learned 5 new Spanish words today. Fixed a bug in the code I wrote today. This makes your progress concrete and visible. When the critic says you're not doing anything, you're lazy, you will have a concrete notebook of evidence to show it. As you make this list, add not just the task, but also the effort you showed and the lesson you learned. Completed 15 minutes of practice even though I was struggling, evidence of resilience. I made a mistake, but I understood why, evidence of learning. Accumulating these small victories repeatedly sends the message to your brain that I am someone who learns, grows, and overcomes challenges. The journey of mastering a craft directly nourishes your self-worth. Because on this journey, you prove to yourself the most fundamental and powerful truths about yourself, that you can be patient, that you can be disciplined, that you can learn from your mistakes, and most importantly, that you can improve when you put in the effort. You build a quiet and solid confidence that burns within you, needing no applause or approval from the outside. This is not the loud voice of the ego saying, I'm great, but the calm and self-assured knowledge of the soul saying, I can. And this knowledge is one of the strongest bricks in the fortress of unshakable self-worth. Rule 8. Use feedback as data, not as a personal attack. So far, we have built a massive fortress in our inner world. We have strengthened our foundations, neutralized our inner enemies, written our own constitution, drawn our boundaries, and discovered the power of being able to do things with our own hands. We are now more solid, more centered. But this does not mean we are completely isolated from the outside world. Life goes on. We interact with people, we work, we form relationships. And during these interactions, our fortress will be constantly tested. The most common and challenging of these tests is feedback. On one hand, there are criticisms thrown like arrows. On the other, there are compliments and praises, which can sometimes be just as confusing. For a mind with low self-worth, both of these are a minefield. Criticism is a personal attack. When someone says, this part of the report is not clear, we hear it as, you are incompetent, your mind doesn't work. Criticism is perceived as a direct assault on our being, and we immediately raise our defensive shields. A compliment is a source of pressure. When someone says, you are great at this, our inner critic immediately whispers, what if I can't be great next time? What if I'm exposed as a fraud? How will I meet this expectation? Instead of reassuring us, a compliment loads us with more performance anxiety. Or worse, we reject the compliment internally. They don't really know me, that's why they're saying that. As you can see, the problem is not with the criticism or the compliment itself. The problem is in the meaning we assign to them. The problem is that we see them as a measure of our personal worth. The 8th rule is here to change this game completely. This rule is a mindset revolution that will turn you from a victim of feedback into its master. The rule is this: use feedback, both positive and negative, not as a personal attack or praise, but simply as neutral data. Think of a scientist. They are conducting an experiment in their lab. The results of the experiment are not what they expected. Does the scientist say, what a stupid scientist I am, I should quit this job? No, they look at the results and ask, interesting. What is this data telling me? What should I change in my hypothesis? What can I do differently in the next experiment? The results are not an attack on their identity. They are simply data that allows them to learn and improve. This is exactly the mindset we need to develop towards feedback. When someone gives us a criticism, it is just a data point. When someone gives us a compliment, that is also another data point. We are the lead researchers who collect this data, analyze it, and decide what to do with it. So how do we put this mindset into practice? Practical steps: managing the art of criticism. Breathe and let go of defensiveness, calm your nervous system. When criticism comes, our body's first reaction is to go into fight or flight mode. Our heart rate increases, our muscles tense, our brain stops thinking rationally and goes on the defensive. The first way to break this automatic reaction is to stop for a moment and take a deep breath. This breath puts a vital space between the stimulus, criticism, and the response, defensiveness. This space is your chance to make a conscious choice. Stop personalizing, separate the message from the messenger. Separate the content of the criticism from the tone of the person saying it and from your own identity. Instead of thinking, "My boss thinks I'm incompetent," think, "My boss has shared data with me that the introduction of this presentation could be more effective." This turns the situation from a personal attack into a concrete problem to be solved. Remember, people's feedback is often about themselves, their own expectations, their own stress, their own communication style. You don't have to carry their baggage. Be a curious detective, ask clarifying questions. Instead of getting defensive, switch to curiosity mode. This is a magical method that disarms the other person and provides you with more data. That's an interesting point. Could you give me an example so I can better understand what you mean? Could you describe what a better outcome would look like for you in this regard? Thank you for your feedback. I will think about it. This approach turns you from a passive victim into an active participant who is managing the situation. Use the kernel of truth filter. Pass the incoming criticism through a sieve. No matter how poorly the criticism is delivered, could there be even a 5% kernel of truth in it that you can use? Maybe the person was rude, but could they be right when they said the presentation was too long? Maybe it was an unfair criticism, but does it show you that you need to draw your boundaries more clearly? Rule 6. Your job is to find that small piece of gold in the mud. You can throw away the rest of the mud, i.e., the person's tone, intention, emotional baggage. You are the decision maker. Choose what to do with the data. You have collected all the data, you have analyzed it. Now, as the CEO of your life, you will make the decision. You can fully accept this feedback and make a change. You can partially accept it and make a small adjustment. Or you can decide that the feedback is not aligned with your values, Rule 5, or your goals, and consciously set it aside with a thank you. You do not have to act on every criticism. The power is yours. Practical steps: accepting a compliment with grace. Notice the rejection reflex. A mind with low self-worth tries to get rid of a compliment like a hot potato. Oh, it was nothing. Downplaying your own effort. It was thanks to you. Shifting responsibility to someone else. This is just an old shirt. Devaluing the praise. Notice these reflexes. This is a sign that you do not value yourself and cannot accept the value that someone else is giving you. The power of thank you. This is the simplest, most elegant, and most powerful response. Just say with a warm smile, "Thank you." This puts a period at the end of the sentence. It shows that you have opened and accepted the gift, because a compliment is a gift. You don't downplay it, you don't reject it, you don't overanalyze it, you just accept it. Optional: share the feeling or the detail. If you want, you can add a small addition to your thank you. This increases sincerity. "Thank you, that makes me very happy to hear." You share your feeling. "Thank you, I really worked hard on this project." You acknowledge your effort. "Thank you, we did a great job as a team." You both accept your part and honor others. True self-worth is not an impenetrable armor that is never affected by criticism or never needs a compliment. True self-worth is not allowing these external events to disrupt your internal balance. Feedback is no longer a report card that defines who you are, but just a road sign that may or may not help you on your journey. And you are the one in the driver's seat. When you take this power into your hands, you will be forever free from the prison of others' opinions. Rule 9. Take off the armor of perfection. Embrace the power of vulnerability. Up to this point in our journey, we have built a solid internal structure for ourselves. We are now more conscious, more compassionate, more focused, and more competent. However, we have not yet fully touched on the deepest and most paradoxical layer of self-worth. This layer is related to a concept that the modern world tries to make us forget, but which is the most fundamental truth of being human. This rule is a summit that brings together everything we have learned so far and gives them real meaning. The rule is this: take off the armor of perfection, because real strength lies in the courage to embrace vulnerability. What comes to your mind when you hear the word vulnerability? Weakness, defenselessness, danger. Society has taught us this. Stand tall, don't cry, don't look weak, keep everything under control. We were told that life is a battlefield and that to survive in this battle, we must wear a thick, shiny, bulletproof armor. The name of this armor is perfection. We try to appear perfect. The perfect parent, the perfect employee, the perfect spouse, the perfect friend. We try to show that we know everything, that we control everything, that we never make mistakes, that we never need help. This armor seems to protect us from criticism, judgment, and most importantly, from rejection. But years of research by researcher and author Brené Brown show us the exact opposite. The armor of perfection does not protect us. It isolates us from the things we desire most in life: true connection, belonging, and love. Because true connection is not established where perfection is displayed, but where imperfections are shared. Think about it. Do you feel closer to a friend when they come to you and say, "My life is great, everything is perfect," or when they say, "I'm going through a very difficult time, I don't know what to do and I'm scared"? Of course, in the second case. Because in that second moment, your friend has lowered their armor and shown you their true self. That is the moment when empathy, trust, and true connection are born. The armor of perfection separates us from others, but even worse, it separates us from ourselves. Inside that armor, we suppress our true feelings, our fear, our sadness, our shame, our disappointment, because these feelings do not fit the perfect image. But suppressed feelings do not disappear. They accumulate inside us and eventually surface as anxiety, depression, addictions, or outbursts of anger. True self-worth is not about being flawless or bulletproof. True self-worth is knowing that you are worthy of love and belonging, with all your flaws, all your mistakes, and all your inadequacies. And this knowledge is only internalized when we show the courage to take off that armor and be seen. Vulnerability is not weakness. As Brené Brown says, vulnerability is the courage to show up and be seen when you have no control over the outcome. Saying, "I love you," despite the possibility of rejection, is vulnerability. Saying, "I don't know" or "I need help" is vulnerability. Starting a new business despite the risk of failure is vulnerability. Putting forward an idea, a work of art, knowing that it might be criticized, is vulnerability. As you can see, vulnerability is at the very center of the most meaningful and courageous moments of our lives. It is not weakness, it is the purest measure of courage. It is the act of stepping into the arena of life and saying, "Here I am with all that I am." So how do we step into this frightening area? Practical steps: developing the vulnerability muscle. Understand what vulnerability is not. Vulnerability is not oversharing, sharing without boundaries, or creating drama on social media. That is boundarylessness. True vulnerability is selective. We share our vulnerability with people who have earned the right to hear it, with people with whom we have built trust. It's not about telling everyone everything, but about telling the right thing to the right person. Catch your perfectionist thoughts. When thoughts like "I have to do this perfectly" or "what will people say" appear in your mind, recognize that this is an attempt to put on the armor of perfection. What is the fear underlying this thought? Is it the fear of being judged, the fear of appearing inadequate? Recognize that fear and approach it with compassion. Rule 4. It's normal to be afraid of being judged, but I will not let this fear stop me from living. Adopt the good enough mantra. The antidote to perfectionism is the good enough philosophy. When you finish a task, instead of asking yourself, "Is this perfect?" ask, "Is this the best I can do with my current resources and knowledge? Is this good enough?" Most of the time, the answer is yes. This is not about lowering your standards, but about setting realistic and compassionate standards. Create small moments of vulnerability. Just like the saying no muscle, the vulnerability muscle also develops with small steps. Tell a trusted friend how you are really feeling that day. "I'm pretending to be fine, but I'm actually a little anxious." In a meeting, when you don't understand something, ask, "I didn't understand, could you explain that again?" When you make a mistake, instead of immediately getting defensive, say, "You're right, I made a mistake there." These small moments send the message to your brain that, when I am vulnerable, the world doesn't fall apart. On the contrary, people connect with me more. Honor your own vulnerable story. We all have difficulties, failures, and heartbreaks in our lives. These are not our sources of shame, but the metals that make us who we are, that make us wiser and more compassionate. Instead of hiding these stories as a source of shame, start to see them as a part of your strength. When you share them with people you trust, you will see that those stories transform from shame into inspiration and connection. Unshakable self-worth is not about being invincible. On the contrary, it is about accepting that you can be defeated, that you can make mistakes, that you can be broken, and still showing the courage to put yourself out there. Because only when we take off that armor do we allow life and other people to truly touch us. And only then do we feel that we are truly living. Rule 10: live self-worth as a daily practice, not a destination. And so, we arrive at the final rule of our journey. This is perhaps less a rule and more a philosophy for transforming the other 9 rules we've learned into a way of life. This is the guide to how we will live inside the magnificent fortress we have built, how we will keep that fortress vibrant and strong every single day. We have come so far, we've separated our worth from the world's report card. We've silenced our inner critic, we've detoxed from the poison of comparison, we've approached ourselves with compassion, we've found our values-based compass, we've drawn our boundaries, we've proven our competence, we've learned to use feedback as data, and finally we've taken off our armor of perfection and embraced the power of vulnerability. After all these steps, we may have started to feel better, more whole, and more worthy. And this is where the biggest trap begins. The "okay, I've made it" fallacy. The trap of seeing self-worth as a summit to be conquered once, a medal to be won and possessed forever. The ego loves goals and completed tasks. It loves to say, "I've finished the self-worth project, what's next?" This is dangerous, because self-worth is not a destination. It is a state of being, just like physical health. If you go to the gym for a month, eat healthy, and then say, "Okay, I'm healthy now," and return to your old habits, what happens? The health you gained, those toned muscles that increased energy, will slowly fade away. Self-worth is the same. It is a living garden that must be nurtured every day with conscious choices, small actions, and constant awareness. Our 10th and final rule is therefore this: stop seeing self-worth as a goal, make it a life art that you practice every day. This is not an outcome, but a process. Not an arrival, but an orientation. It is the determination to consciously turn the helm of your ship towards your values every morning when you wake up, no matter how hard the winds of that day may blow. So how is this done? How do we keep all these rules, all this knowledge, alive in the hustle and bustle of daily life? Practical steps: the daily maintenance of the self-worth garden. Set a morning intention, set the day's compass. Start your day not with the fatigue of the previous day or the stress of the day ahead, but with a conscious intention. Every morning, while sitting in bed or drinking your coffee, take just 1 minute to think about which rule you particularly want to bring to life that day. This is programming your brain's reticular activating system, its attention filter. You tell your brain what to look for that day. Today, I will be more compassionate with myself. Rule 4. Today, when a request comes in, I will pause instead of automatically saying yes. Rule 6. Today, when my inner critic speaks, I will notice it and name it. Rule 2. Don't just think this intention, make it concrete. Write it on a post-it note and stick it on your computer screen. Make it your phone's wallpaper. Or just say it out loud to yourself. My intention for today is to take a breath before getting defensive when I receive criticism. This is like a mental rehearsal for the challenges you will face during the day. It's setting your compass at the start of the day. Create micro moments of awareness throughout the day. It's very easy to get lost in the flow of the day, to go on autopilot. Therefore, set small reminders for yourself, little wake-up bells. Maybe you set an alarm on your phone for noon and late afternoon. Maybe you stick a note on your desk. When you see that reminder, just stop for 30 seconds and do a check-in. You can do a simple STOP practice: stop, take a breath, observe, proceed. Stop what you're doing, just stop. Take a breath, close your eyes, and just take one deep, slow breath in and out. Observe, ask yourself, where am I right now? What story is running in my mind? Am I in comparison mode? Is the critic talking? Is there tension in my body? Are my shoulders tight? Is my jaw clenched? Observe like a scientist without judgment. These small pauses reduce the stress that accumulates during the day and, most importantly, allow you to get out of autopilot and back in the driver's seat. Do an evening reflection, gather the day's harvest. At the end of the day, instead of taking the day's stress to bed with you, take 5 minutes to do a reflection practice. This is not a time for blame or judgment, but a time for learning and integration. Keep a journal and write down these 3 headings. Gratitude: write down 3 things that went well that day that brought you joy. This practice trains your brain to focus on the positive and is the most powerful antidote to the poison of comparison. In Rule 3. Don't just be general like "I'm grateful for my health." Be specific. The smell of the coffee I drank today. The cuteness of the cat I saw on the street. Self-compassion moment: think of a moment that day when you struggled or made a mistake. Now imagine how you could have treated yourself more compassionately in that moment. Maybe you called yourself stupid. Now rewrite that moment. That was a difficult moment and I did the best I could. Everyone makes mistakes. This reinforces Rule 4 and teaches your brain a new, compassionate response pattern. Small victory: celebrate a small moment that day when you applied any of these rules. I was able to say no to someone today. I accepted a compliment today with just a thank you. I practiced the guitar for 15 minutes today. This strengthens Rules 7 and 8 and sends the message to your brain that I am a person who is learning and growing. Recognize your triggers and patterns. On this journey, you will notice that there are certain situations, people, or emotions that pull you back into your old habits. Maybe your inner critic is harsher when you're tired. Maybe you constantly feel inadequate around a certain relative. Maybe you fall into the comparison trap when you see a specific profile on social media. Watch these patterns like a detective and take notes. When trigger: I feel due. Old pattern. For example, when I get a vague email from my boss, I immediately assume the worst-case scenario and get anxious. When you recognize these patterns, their power diminishes because they are no longer invisible. You will be better prepared next time. When you encounter your trigger, you will find the strength to say, there's that familiar scenario again, but this time I can make a different choice. Start the upward spiral. None of these rules are independent of each other. They are an ecosystem that feeds on each other. Think of a flywheel. Initially, it's very difficult to push that heavy metal disc. Each rule is a push on that flywheel, but with each push, the flywheel speeds up a little more. After a while, momentum builds and the flywheel starts to turn on its own without so much effort. When you show yourself more compassion, Rule 4, your courage to be vulnerable increases, Rule 9. When you are vulnerable, you form deeper connections, which reduces the need for comparison, Rule 3. When you draw your boundaries, Rule 6, your self-respect increases and you have more energy to devote to a craft, Rule 7. As you master a craft, the voice of the inner critic quiets down, Rule 2. This is an upward spiral. Every small step makes the next one easier. This journey is not about being perfect. You will have bad days. There will be moments when you fall back into old patterns. The important thing is not to stay down when you fall. The important thing is to be able to get up each time with less judgment, more compassion, and more quickly. Every fall is not a failure, but an opportunity to learn. What is this fall teaching me? Which rule did I forget? What do I need more of? Unshakable self-worth is not about wearing armor. It is about gardening every day. Sometimes you pull the weeds, the critic, comparison. Sometimes you nourish the soil, self-compassion, competence. Sometimes you repair the fences, boundaries. And every day you see that garden becoming a little more beautiful, a little stronger. This is the most precious, most meaningful, and most beautiful art that will last a lifetime. The art of being yourself. Closing for the video. And so, my friend, we've come to the end of this long and deep journey together. I want you to take a moment to realize just how far you've come. You've taken a giant step from a life dependent on outside applause to a life that carries its own worth within. These 10 rules are no longer just information, they are your new toolkit. You've taken off your armor, you've found your compass, and most importantly, you've chosen to be a friend to yourself. That is one of the bravest choices in this world. But remember, this isn't an ending, but a true beginning. The real adventure starts now, and you are not alone on this adventure. Now I'd like to ask you for something. We completed this journey together, now let's inspire each other. Come down to the comments section and share with us. Which of these 10 rules resonated with you the most? Which one made you say, that's exactly my problem? And more importantly, what promise are you making to yourself this week to try just one of these rules, even with a tiny step? Every comment you write will be a light for someone else walking this path. Let's draw strength from each other's stories. If this conversation has added something to your life, if it has sparked an awareness within you, please show me and everyone else that beautiful energy by hitting the like button. And if you want to continue being a part of this family and embark on many more journeys together, it would make me very happy if you joined us by subscribing to the channel. If you also turn on that notification bell, you won't miss our next meeting. Finally, never forget this: you are whole and complete enough that you don't need anyone else's approval. You, with all your what-ifs and I'm glad I dids, with all your cracks and your victories, are so incredibly worthy just for breathing. This is a gift given to you by the universe. Now go and shine with the light of that gift. Take very good care of yourself.